At Council Bluffs Savings Bank, our goal is to help you, your families, and your businesses grow and prosper for generations. We take pride in our community, whether it's volunteering our time or helping individuals, families, and businesses succeed. We provide you with the personal service and attention you deserve. With over 220 years of banking experience, decisions are made locally. We are Council Bluffs people operating at Council Bluffs Bank to help Council Bluffs be a better place to work and live. Council Bluffs Savings Bank. Hometown banking, the way it used to be. Member FDIC.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. All council members are present, some more than others. Would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Well, I would move to amend the consent agenda by, or excuse me, would this be the proper time to amend the agenda proper? Or,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you. I would move to amend to reverse the order of 5G and 5H.
Second.
So the motion is to take H before G in the regular agenda.
Yeah,
Any other discussion on that?
I also do need to make an amendment, so do you want to do it after you vote on this amendment?
Yeah, let's vote on this one. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And then you had an amendment?
On the mayor's appointments,
Yes.
we need to separate out one name off of there, just because it came to light that they were not a city resident, and we didn't know that. So we need to separate Judd Knipsel off that list. He would have been an excellent candidate, but he's not in the city limits, so.
Okay, so there's an amendment to delete the zoning board of adjustment appointment of Judd Knispel due to his residency.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now the consent agenda as amended. Is there a motion for approval? Do we already do that? All right, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearing. This is the time and place for a public hearing as advertised on the matter of Resolution 14-106, authorizing the mayor to submit an application for the fiscal year 2015 state transit assistance. Is proof of publication on file?
It is on file.
Have any written protests been received?
None received.
Are there any oral protests of this matter? Anyone who wishes to speak against? Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Seeing none, what's the council's pleasure?
And make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolutions. Resolution 14-107, authorizing a joint application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority by the City of Council Bluffs and Echo Group Incorporated for benefits under the High Quality Jobs Program, including local property tax abatement incentives and the Targeted Jobs Withholding Tax Credit Program.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-108, amending the planned commercial development plan for Mall of the Bluffs subdivision.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-109, granting preliminary plan approval for a 14-lot preliminary subdivision plan to be known as Mall of the Bluffs, being part of lots 2, 3, and 4, Auditor subdivision of the northwest quarter of section 5-74-43, part of lots 1 through 6, Auditor subdivision of the northeast quarter, and part of lots 1, 3, and 6, Auditor subdivision of the southeast quarter, northeast quarter of section 6-74-43, part of lots 2, 5, and 6, auditor subdivision of the southeast quarter, all in section 31-75-43, part of lots 2 and 4, auditor subdivision of the southwest quarter of section 32-75-43, part of the vacated Chicago Rock Island Railroad right-of-way, and part of the vacated Madison Avenue right-of-way, except that part of Lot 4, auditor subdivision of the southwest quarter of section 32-75-43, sold to the City of Council Bluffs for road purposes.
Is there a motion?
Move a motion, which is probably the longest title I've
Second.
Can you drag it out somewhere so you can get her breath back?
Just
Any
don't ask her to-
discussion on that?
Just don't ask her to repeat it.
Just that, reviewing the plans and everything that's before us and what was submitted by the property owners, it appears to me that this offers the businesses that are currently there in this property more flexibility to do with their properties as they deem fit. And so I think that's always a proposition to allow flexibility for business, so I'm in favor.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
wait.
Oh, sorry.
Can I just point one thing?
You have to come up here and give your name and address.
My name is Warren Headley. My address is 14710 West Dodge Road, Omaha, Nebraska 68154. I'm the surveyor with Lamper and Earson that's preparing the plat. And I would like to tell the council that the Hy-Vee had requested that their lot be remain as one lot instead of being split into two. So it's now actually a 13 lot subdivision instead of 14. That'd be the only difference from what the plat is if you've seen it so far.
Any questions?
Dick, does that require an amendment?
Yes, I think we need to have an amendment at this time, then we can have the paperwork follow up.
Okay.
Make that changes, but
Okay.
if you want to just incorporate the notion that Hy-Vee would be one lot versus two.
Right. The preliminary was shown as lots 5 and 6, and now it's just going to be lot 5, and then the remaining lots will be numbered accordingly.
I move to amend the preliminary plan approval so that lots 5 and 6 be known as Lot 5 and the overall number of lots be reduced by 1.
Second.
Jerry Gordman. Any discussion on that? Motion on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And then on the resolution as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-110, authorizing a joint application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority by the Council Bluffs Enterprise Zone Commission and Franklin Hill LLC for enterprise zone benefits.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-111, authorizing a joint application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority by the Council Bluffs Enterprise Zone Commission and Tyson Fresh Meats Incorporated for enterprise zone benefits.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-112, authorizing a joint application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority by the Council Bluffs Enterprise Zone Commission and Western Iowa Land Development LLC for enterprise zone benefits.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-114, amending the use of B12 Community Development Block Grant Funds and Home Investment Partnership Program Funds, and directing the mayor to submit the amended 2014 annual plan to the City of Omaha and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes. In earlier study session, we brought a number of pertinent facts about this resolution forward. Home funds were previously sought for apartment projects at Wabash Place and Linden Place, And the current resolution would shift some $500,000 in those funds to this project at 100 West Broadway. Earlier during the study session, I spoke about the wide variety of options, the different types of projects that are eligible for grant money under this program, as well as the wider community block grant program. Guidance from HUD regarding these eligibility covers a number of items to include home rehabilitation in troubled neighborhoods for individual single-family homes. To date, only $350,000 is in the current proposed plan for such projects. HUD guidance also provides for collaboration with charitable nonprofits and helping provide assistance to homeless, distressed homeowners, whatnot. The total grant to the city in the current proposal is $123,000. Thus, if you add on top of that the administrative costs that community development was awarded for handling these programs, that adds another $340,000 in grant money. Thus, the resolution proposes more money for this single project at 100 West Broadway than is being provided for individual homeowner rehabilitation and charitable foundation assistance than those two funds combined. And I find that troubling. By this time you add on the administration costs, less than a quarter of the home funds being sought by the city actually help assist individual homeowners. Last August, this council was assured that there were adequate estimates of financing and costs, and an agreement was made between the developer and the city that no further assistance would be sought. In examining the current proposal against the past proposal, it seems to me as though that there are a number of things that are not adding up. They don't provide me enough reassurance that this $500,000 is going to make a difference, and I am troubled by the fact that we're spending more on this single project than we could be doing for the taxpayers of this city elsewhere. So for those reasons, I intend to be on record in opposition.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I am also, I want to echo those comments, but just a few of my own. To date, this project has been awarded $3.8 million in public monies. One of the two, the applicant is a limited liability company made up of two members, one of which spoke quite admirably and is the one doing the design, the development work, and the other being the Potawatomi County Development Corporation. They are loaning the project money. They are expecting the taxpayer to pay 56% of the residential portion of this property. More, again, as Councilmember Ringerberg said, than we are giving to individual homeowners, to other charities, to the homeless, all combined. It's all to this one project. In this one project, the corner of that lot, closest to Broadway Methodist Church, also owned by the Potawatomi County Development Corporation, is not a part of this cleanup effort. And based on the financials, quite clearly they're not going to be in a position to afford to clean that up. So that derelict property that they've been allowed to keep going there apparently will continue to allow to stay there for years to come if this goes through. In short, I'm not convinced, looking at the financing of this, that the people's business is truly being served by giving all this money to one entity, half of which is loaning money to itself from public funds, and has not engaged in any sort of process of competitive bidding, even though the law doesn't require it. Nonetheless, there's been no effort, based on their answers today at study session, to look for the best qualified bidder, that is, not just go with the ones that PCDC or the underlying entity that funds at Iowa West always picks. And I'm concerned then by the relationships and the appearances of conflict, at the very least, that are occasioned by this. I very much want to see development in that area. It's not, as some would have it, an all or nothing. It's not this project or nothing ever happens there. What we can do is we could put the money towards actual projects where people leverage funds, where public entities, particularly Iowa West, will put up actual money rather than loaning money at a profit, and will actually try to make a difference in the community rather than expecting the taxpayer to shift money away from low-income housing to prop up a building. It's an important building, but is it more important than the rest of the people in town who truly, a lot of this underlying money is disaster money from the federal government that's meant to help displace people from flooding and poorer folks, relatively poorer folks. I don't see how helping this building does that. It makes some people happy. I'm just not sure if it's the right ones, and so I can't vote for it.
Well, I will be voting for it, and I think there is some misconceptions. Nate was just saying that flood money was for low-income people that were displaced. That's not the facts of it. There was money made available, the state of Iowa received after the floods of 2008, I believe.
2008 was the initial program, which was the flooding on the Cedar River.
And this money then, they realized that those communities that were damaged by that couldn't possibly replace their housing in the amount of time they had available. So they made it available to anybody in the state that could meet the criteria. They made that available across the state to replace housing, not low-income housing. You know, those guidelines weren't on it, or this project wouldn't have met the requirements. This is affordable housing, so it's meeting a need that had been identified in Council Bluffs, is to provide housing that met an affordable level, so not necessarily low income, but housing that meets a different income guideline, which was 80% of the median income for the area. This project meets that. As far as the money that's being reallocated to this, the two projects, there were two other projects that we had allocated this money for. Neither one of them were able to get their financing in place and move forward. So this money is not being used for those because they're not moving forward at this time. So it wasn't taken away from other projects that are viable. It wasn't. You know, this is a project that can't be done with just private funds. It wouldn't be cost effective. The appraisal on the property is $4.8 million. The cost to build it's over $12 million. That's why these funds, some of these funds that we're using on this are available for that reason. And as for the money that's being used for this, not going to existing homes and those type of issues, there were public hearings that were held way in advance of this, when the community put in their application for these funds as to what needed to be done. There were groups brought together from nonprofits, people from the public. This was done a long time ago, and they directed these funds. This is what they determined Council Bluffs needed, was these kind of projects, and that's why it's being done this way. It wasn't that, oh, we're not going to fund existing homes. This was a conglomerate of a lot of people at public hearings. There's been, just on this thing, this initial thing, there's been 9 public meetings on this. So, you know, this wasn't something that we're diverting funds from existing homes. This project's important in that it's going to revitalize an area of our town with commercial and residential, which is something that's needed. It's not an easy to develop lot. As far as the blighted building, we've discussed this, the building does need to be repaired and made look better. But we were also told at study session today that they are going to make the building look better, and that the developer will actually be using part of this building in their staging and sales for this new building. So that building will get a facelift. It will look better. And as far as it's an all or nothing, an RFP was let for this project. One was received. One company made a bid on this as to do something. Nobody else did. I've talked to developers in Omaha. They are not readily willing to come over and do this type of project in Council Bluffs. They look at the demographics, they look at the rooftops, they look at the median income. It takes a developer that's willing to risk themselves. And so, you know, one of the other things I want to make sure is out there is that this developer has $2.6 million invested of their own money. They have every reason to make this project work and to be a good project. They're very heavily invested in it. They've been a good developer in Council Bluffs. They've done the 3 Point Lofts. They've done the 1800 block. They have, or the 100 block of West Broadway. They've done a lot of projects, and they've all been quality projects. The 3 Point Lofts is completely rented with a waiting list. So I'm definitely in favor of this. This is going to put a piece of land that's paying $20,000 a year in taxes. It's going to put it on the tax rolls, and the citizens of Council Bluffs will start realizing, and I've got that number written down, but it's like over $80,000 that we'll start realizing in taxes being paid on this property. So I think it's definitely a viable property and good for the community, so I will be voting in favor.
Any other discussion?
Perhaps some clarification here, that the original application for the city for this year, again, it provided only $123,000, I'm sorry, $340,000 for housing rehabilitation. Now, this particular money being sought was for 2008 flood mitigation on a river that we're not on. And we're considering this after a time when we had flood damage from the Missouri River in 2011. At the time that this application was made, we could have well had a number of projects that sought to mitigate the harmful effects of that flooding for individual homeowners near the Missouri River. And we chose not to provide that money. Last time I looked, there has not been a flood on West Broadway and the 100 block. So I think it bears noting that there are some choices that were undertaken, and different choices could have well been made.
Well, while it may have initiated in 2008, we certainly didn't have flood damage till 2011. So unless Kresgen was filing the application, I don't know how we could have filed it back in 2008. But
That's pretty much my point.
well, then I missed your point. I'd promised people this afternoon that they'd have an opportunity to express their opinion. I'm honestly looking out in the room, and I'm seeing about 50-50 for and against. And if you all get up and speak, we're going to be here all night long. But again, I made that offer, and I certainly want to honor that offer. You're welcome to come forward. Typically, on a public hearing, we do against and then for. What the Planning Commission does that I think is a really appropriate way of doing things is they say, please step forward, state what you want to state, make it cumulative and non-repetitive, and so that we don't have 20 people getting up and saying basically the same thing. If you have something additional to add, if you have a question to ask, now's your time, and certainly you're willing to take it. So anyone opposed, we'll start that way.
Can I just say real quick that when you do come up and speak, that agenda item 5H is essentially related to 5G. So in order to not have people come up 2 times in a row, if you could, combine your comments, does that make sense?
Yep,
Just
yep.
for efficiency
And
purposes.
we need your name and your address for the record.
I'm Mark Tompkins from 2817 McInerney Drive over in the southwest corner of town. I've got one question only. There were a lot of people that stood up and thought this was a good idea this afternoon. I see at least one of the council members thinks it's a good idea. Here's my question. If it's such a good idea, are you willing to write a check for $100,000 and give it to the developer to make it happen? If not, why should I pay for it?
Those funds are already allocated. We've already received those funds, and those funds are going to go for this type of project, whether it's this one or a different type of project. That's how those funds are going to be used because they've already been allocated.
Well, we
What?
Let them go home where they came from.
Oh, let the money go back? Let another community have it?
Well, apart from that, we could also reallocate them towards the home program, which I think was zero funded as of this year. So it's as the Director of Community Development said this afternoon, it's not like if we don't use it, it automatically goes back.
was my understanding as well.
All right, anybody in favor?
Hi, I'm Bob Rosser at 903 South 3rd Street. I've only been in Council Bluffs for about 5 months with my wife, and I moved over from Midtown, a blighted neighborhood in the Park and Leavenworth area. And for the last 6 years, I can tell you, being part of a project in that neighborhood, what Urban Village did by rehabbing those condemned buildings, what it brought to the neighborhood was tenants, and new businesses sprouted up because tenants like convenience. And the neighborhood has transformed, and that has mushroomed, and those guys have been getting calls from other developers because they saw a project take shape.
I'm Elisa Roth, 23922 McPherson Avenue, and I own Bloomworks Flower Shop on the 100 block. And I'm thrilled to see a project coming across like this because I've been looking at a grassy lot for a very long time. And I don't think there's one business on that block that couldn't benefit from all those new tenants that will be in those buildings and the opportunity for new retail establishments to come in to encourage other business owners to work with other tenants, things like that. So I'm strongly for it.
My name is Scott Redicus. I live at 325 Union Street, and I'm for this, and I would like to see something done down there. Kind of looks bad, so thanks.
I'm Rich Sorge with the Iowa West Foundation, 25 Main Place. We think this is a significant project and a major piece of the puzzle for the 100 block. That would be great for not only downtown, but for the community as well. I think that in the past, as we've been supportive of projects that PCDC and working with community development have put together, and they've done a very nice job in the downtown area. And we think that the development team that's been put together here has shown, it's certainly shown a track record, a strong track record of being able to bring the projects through to fruition. So for that, we are very supportive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Lostrup. I live at 351 Woodland Drive in Council Bluffs. And I am also a member of the Community Development Block Grant Commission and Committee. And I am here representing that commission and committee tonight to let the council know that we are very much in favor of this expenditure. We think that it is vital to the city, and we've looked very carefully at the options and where the money is coming from. We are very cognizant of the need for rehab within this city and constantly work toward making that a very apparent project and something very much in front of the commission and the committee's eyes. So we would encourage the council to vote in favor. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob Dean. I'm president of Selden Company. My address is 14520 Harvey Oaks Avenue in Omaha, Nebraska. We're here to speak in favor of the project. We've been blessed to have a management relationship with J Development, all the projects that they've done. We partnered with them on several occasions. Top-notch developers doing a great job in Council Bluffs. Our firm actually started in Council Bluffs, what's now called the Bennett Building up the street. Ted Selden tells me frequently how proud he is of all of the work that's happening in Council Bluffs, and particularly in the downtown area, and we just encourage you to continue that effort.
My name is Mark Hansen. I live at 110 Highclere. I'm also a business owner on the 100 block at the Rodeo Saloon. For purposes of just the resolution of using these funds for the project, I'm completely for it. That being said, I think this project does need to have some more T's crossed and I's dotted. The largest problem with the 100 block right now is parking. This project does add some parking to it, but I don't believe it's enough. We need to have more parking available at it. I did pull up a picture of the old Ogden Hotel today, and I know the original project was to only be 3 stories tall. The Ogden was 4 stories tall. There's no reason why. The biggest problem I heard in the study session earlier today was it wasn't going to have a high enough valuation to really be able to borrow against it. Maybe it needs to be bigger. Maybe it needs to be a 5-story apartment complex with 5 stories of parking to actually accommodate the retail space. The one thing I've heard over and over that no one's really mentioned is how many businesses are going to be able to afford $9,000 to $27,000 in rent with the current parking situation down there. That's my one big concern with this project and for everything here. I think the design of the building is beautiful on the outside. It'll be great for the 100 block. I would just like to see those things taken into accumulation and possibly make an amendment to the plan to make it more viable so that everyone can succeed. Thank you.
Mark, you make a valid point, and I would tell you, in staff meeting today, we talked about the potential of doing a parking study, and so we're certainly in tune with what you're saying.
My name is Terry Knipp, and I am a resident at the Hughes Iron Lofts and was one of the first residents to move in there. And I wanted to emphasize what Ms. White said earlier, which is that this project does support affordable housing. It is not intended to bring people living in poverty into this environment necessarily, but it allows people who are in entry-level professional positions to come in. The starting salary for a full-time teacher at Iowa Western Community College, which is where I work, is approximately $32,000 a year. This is a perfect professional middle-class housing environment for somebody who is coming here to teach at this at our community college. That also falls into salaries for public school teachers, for entry-level nurses, and so on. And so when you look at some of the biggest industries that we have here and their employees, this is an opportunity to enable those individuals to live in a quality environment in their community. There certainly are some aspects of this project that I'm not thrilled with. I may well lose my view, but I do think that it is critically important for the strength and economic well-being of a community to have good, solid, affordable housing options for people who are starting their careers or, more like me, downsizing and want to find a safe, beautiful, middle-class environment where they feel that they can be a part of a vibrant community, and that's something that I have found there. So thank you very much.
And I'd concur that 70% of the teachers in the Council Bluffs School District live in Omaha, and I assume that number's the same for our healthcare system. And the primary reason they give is that they can't find acceptable, affordable housing in the price range they're looking at. So all that stuff then plays into the economics that developers look at when they choose a location to come to. So thank you for your input. With that, if anyone from the council would like to wrap up, let's allow that, and then we'll have a vote.
I just want to briefly say I want to be very clear. I'm not against development. I'm not against affordable housing. I think in many of my votes and many of my public stances in general, I think people who know me will know that the opposite is very much true. I question here whether we're getting good value for money. You know, we can do all these things at a lesser price if we would actually go out and try to find companies that would do the work in our capitalist system for a cheaper price. They might not be our friends, and they might not be people that we always use, but this is business, this is tax money. We've got to get the good result, but we've got to do it in a way that's sensitive of the people's money too. I appreciate people who are for it, but if your taxes had to go up to do that, I think you might think differently, many folks. And in essence, you are taking it away from other projects. The same thing could be done if we had someone else do it at a market price rather than a friend rate.
I'd like to weigh in on this. I just want to say that this project came before us last year. I was one of the affirmative votes. I think it's a great project, and I apologize that I'm looking this way, but you guys are that way.
You don't have a leg to stand on.
She's got one.
You are correct, sir. But I think that the J Development has done a great job of taking the project to the public, listening to the public, making some changes to the design to, in consideration of those comments. I think the success and the life of any downtown area requires density, and the one thing missing from our downtown is density, and having the folks that live in this area will, no doubt in my mind, spur additional investment, additional dollars spent in our community. It will bring, as was mentioned this afternoon during study session, people from outside our community to our community, and that's what we want, is we want people to come and live in Council Bluffs, to know what we have to offer, and this is a perfect opportunity for an affordable housing location in our beautiful downtown for those people to come and join us and become residents of Council Bluffs and enjoy and partake of everything that we have to offer. So I'm wholeheartedly in favor of this, and I apologize I wasn't here this afternoon to add my comments.
All right. There's a motion on the floor. Hi, okay. And name and address, Renee, for the record.
Renee Orduna at 141 West Broadway, Council Bluffs, Iowa. First of all, I wasn't here 2 weeks ago because Dancing with the Stars was on and they had switched partners. So I wanted you to know that that was the only reason I wasn't here. Secondly, I'm going to floor people now because, yes, I do agree that we do need housing. We do need affordable housing in Council Bluffs. But what makes me nervous about this project is the same thing that Al and Nate has said, that this money was meant for something else and we're using it for something that it's not supposed to be done. Number two, the outreach hasn't been far enough and the parking study has not been done so that we know how much parking we should be having in that area. It's putting the horse in front of the cart, so to speak, or the cart in front of the horse, because we've been told for a year and a half that this building is going to be built. And now we're looking at funding for it. Who does that? Who does things like that when they put the cart in front of the horse and tell all the people in the neighborhood that the building's coming? And they don't even have the money for it. That's irresponsible to me as a business owner. I couldn't do business like that. And because of those kind of situations, we are now looking at it down in business because we were told in October that the building was going to start. So we had to tell our customers. In January, we were told the same thing, and no buildings being built. I think we have to look at the financial part of this and the cause and effect of this building going in. And if we don't have adequate parking, we are going to be shooting ourselves in the foot later on down the road trying to find parking. I think the parking study should come before any vote like this. And I think that's what makes a difference. You know, putting your ducks in a row like we had to do moving over here, and yes, it is in our lease that that building can go in, and I understand that, and I can be for this building. But it has to supply enough parking, and not even all parking. Only 40% of the parking. And that's what Omaha has to supply. That's what their old bosses had to supply for buildings that they've been building in Omaha. And Todd Hestead is a good friend of mine. And we had a lovely discussion this morning. I understand their side, and I understand my side. But I also understand your side as being people who allocate funds for the city. I don't envy you at all. This is a hard job to be doing. And it's such theater to me that I am enjoying it immensely.
I'm glad you are.
And so I want to say that I can be for this. But after a parking study's been done, after all these other considerations have been looked at, and not putting the cart in front of the horse and telling us that this is all ready to go. Does that seem fair?
Oh, it was discussed today at study session, you know, those issues of, you know, why the funding wasn't in place. Yeah. Well, and there were some increase in costs, and there's just no doubt about it. Now, it's my understanding that they could have moved forward without, you know, with less costs if they didn't put in the parking deck. But, you know, we've all discussed that parking is just such an issue. So, Matt said, and I've been pushing too, we need a parking study. We know that. We are adding more parking this summer to the Vine Street parking lot. I think we're doing everything we can to add that additional parking. and locate other areas for parking, but we do need a study. We need to understand the impacts. But this project, they're not just replacing, the parking they're taking, they're adding a tremendous amount more parking than what's there now. So, and I think, was it last week, I know that they told us that the lower level parking before 11 o'clock in the evening can be used by the public. So, they're definitely not removing any space. They're adding a tremendous amount more parking than's available now, but we still need more. So we are going to look into that, and we're going to see what needs to be done. I want to assure you it's not falling on deaf ears that we need more parking, but this one project can't be responsible for all the parking down there. They're replacing an additional 32 spots above and beyond what they have to even do the project. So I think they're trying.
And more importantly, Renee, were you as shocked as I was how jealous Tony Devillani was of Nene dancing with Derek Huff? I mean, really?
I'm lost.
I don't watch it for long.
I am completely lost.
Any other
I'd
comment?
rather not.
All right, we are on 5H. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Resolution 14-113, authorizing a joint application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority by the Council Bluffs Enterprise Zone Commission and 125 West Broadway LLC for enterprise zone benefits.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Of course. Current agreement between the city and 125 West Broadway LLC currently calls for TIF funding that the city will be obligated to through fiscal year 2031. That's 17 years out. $2.8 million more in grant money besides the block grant and the home money that has just been added is layered on top of that. And now this motion considers layering on top of that mix another 100% tax abatement for a period of 3 years. Now, we've had this discussion before about community block grant disaster recovery funds, and we've discussed how those funds can be widely used. And according to our agenda today, those uses could be put to such concerns as levee accreditation, flood insurance, and maintenance of our sewer systems. Having said that, we also need to look at the financials for this project and consider whether or not it's viable in the long run. According to the application submitted to this council last August, and now updated by the instant application, construction costs have went up by $1.7 million, or roughly 31%. At the same time, the developer involved here has committed in writing back in October not to request any more tax abatement or any other public financing, and further said that they intended to break ground on the same day the agreement was signed, 1 October. That obviously has not been done because the financial aspect of the agreement provided back to this council in August and again signed and committed to in October, they couldn't meet it, quite frankly. And on top of that, that PCDC is now increasing its loan commitments from $400,000 to over $1.6 million. That means that PCDC is going to have considerable less latitude in how it addresses those properties immediately to the west of 125 West Broadway. That means that what has been called by the mayor as an eyesore and embarrassment is likely to continue to remain so for some time to come because the resources are not going to be available to address those concerns. Add on top of that, as Mr. Watson eloquently put it, we're rather concerned about the overall financial feasibility of this. And when you compare the two packages side by side, I become convinced that this whole project is built on a fiscal foundation of shifting sand. It changes by the month, as we've seen over the past several months. So while this project requiring so much public funding will serve the interests of a number of at least a good number of private developers and private foundations and construction entities, we are at the same time taking away latitude and potential resources for potentially hundreds of homeowners near the river that were so severely impacted by the flooding back in 2011. I think we can do better for all the taxpayers in this town and for all the people that contribute to make sure that we take a good hard look at how we're applying public dollars to private business plans.
And I just want to own my own words, because I know there's several PCDC board members here, and unfortunately I yelled to raise my voice to one of them, but it is a scar and an embarrassment to our community. Lyle should have kept his tire business there. You should be honestly ashamed to let those buildings sit like they are. And I did say that, and I do mean that. That said, I just want to clarify, 100% tax abatement is 100% of the incremental increase in tax abatement. So they will pay the taxes that are currently being paid. We don't lose anything, we just don't gain anything for 3 years.
Well, what's another $100,000 of your tax money, I guess?
It's not their tax money.
Well-
It's the developer's tax money, and you know that as well as I do.
Well, it's money that goes into the general coffers that, when I pay tax.
There's no money in the coffers if there's no project.
Right.
If I increase the value of my house, do I get to keep the increase in the tax revenue above and beyond the taxes I currently pay? No, the taxman charges me more, and rightfully so, because I should contribute more to the community if I have more at stake and own more. I shouldn't take more. And whether it takes from an increase or not, it's still taking. And what's another 100,000? If the community foundation likes this and they're funded, if not entirely, almost entirely by the iOS Foundation, if they like it so much, why don't they buy it?
They did buy it.
Well,
They gave them the money to buy it.
well, they're giving them a loan, as I understand it.
No, they gave them the money to buy the ground.
Well, then why are we here asking for tax incentives of $4 million total? And today it's another $500,000. What's another $500,000 towards a
You
project?
just said Iowa West should put their money behind it.
Yeah.
They did. They
Well-
bought the ground.
Well, but I'm saying that if they think it's such a fantastic project, I wish they would use their money, well, which actually is our money, but setting that aside for a moment, rather than ask us to defund, because in effect, that's what it does. We have all these other programs meant to help other things, other homeowners in particular, and we're not paying for them. It's a choice we're making. I just think it's a bad choice. I respect that some think that it's going to increase the economic vitality of the area and that'll exponentially grow the area. I respect it. I may very well be wrong. I just completely disagree with it.
And I would tell you that you also know that the people that were displaced by that flooding basically got 120% buyout of their property. And so they're not
Yes, they did.
held harmed. They are harmless.
No, I'm not talking.
And this is a special program
No.
to replace lost housing units.
That can't be rebuilt in some of those areas.
Yes,
They need
but-
to go somewhere.
I agree, but the question is, should they go to Joe Blow, who's got a $65,000 house that needs a new furnace, or should they go to PCDC's new building to finance an increase of cost because they didn't bid out to other people other than people they know? That's the question to me.
Anybody else?
No, I'm just glad that you made the statement about the people on the river, because I want to assure everybody that the people that lost their properties on the river were cared for. They were given buyouts, the federal government did, and the city of Council Bluffs had to participate in that. So to insinuate we're taking money away from people that lost their homes to the flooding is absolutely not true, and I guess I feel bad that it was made to look that way. I'm sorry if anybody was made to believe that, because that did not happen.
Well, in the short time that I've been on the council, I've heard a number of items that have been brought to the council's attention about the need to buy up distressed, abandoned, derelict homes, and we are paying for demolition costs on those buildings. And we have, the last time I looked, literally dozens of homes that are currently vacant or abandoned over on the west side of town. And that creates not only a problem for the people who own those homes, it creates a problem for their neighbors, and it creates a problem for our police department and our fire department and everyone else. So yes, we do have plenty of opportunities to put this money to better use for individual homeowners, and we have simply decided not to do that.
Well, and just to clarify that, I'm glad to see Mr. Ringenberg say that, because a few minutes ago he said that we had flood victims that weren't cared for. But what I would say is that we do have a problem with abandoned housing, and unfortunately, we had a very high foreclosure rate. I've got neighborhoods that I run stats on in the West End that at one point in time we had a 48% foreclosure rate in those neighborhoods. Those are issues, but those are bigger issues than this fund can address, because some of those properties are still owned by the banks, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. It takes time to absorb this into the market, and we definitely have homes that need to be demolished and rebuilt, and we work on that at as fast a pace as we can. But we also know that we had a commercial property rollback, and we also know that we have to do things to create a larger tax base in order to not have the impact of that go against our residential properties. So there are a lot of reasons that this is a good project, but that's one more reason, is that we're going to get something on the books that's paying taxes that is a good quality project. So, I just really glad to hear that we're not saying that people were flooded out and left with no funds.
Well,
Okay.
And I just want to say that this afternoon, 2 weeks ago, and again tonight, I believe there's been a lot of diversionary comments that kind of escape the agenda item and what we're here to debate and decide upon. And notwithstanding any of those comments, some of which are true, not true, some of them inappropriate, and I feel bad for you, Julie, J Development. I don't believe your finances are on shifting sands, and I really apologize, because I believe that you're a reputable developer. You've done some good projects in our community, and I feel bad that I don't know why you're being beat upon like this, because I believe it's a good project, and it will enhance and better our community. So with that being said, I'd like to call the question.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion to call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Then a motion on 5H. Did I do that right? I'm sorry, 5G. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Nay.
Resolutions on the flood mitigation program. Resolution 14-115, adopting the project plan. Resolution 14-116, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to designate the public works director as the applicant's authorized representative. And Resolution 14-117, authorizing the local funding match for the City of Council Bluffs mitigation project.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Were you going to make an amendment?
Yeah, can we have a friendly amendment to the language we talked about in study session,
Oh, yeah.
subject to change in the
Oh. Do we need an amendment, or just does somebody need to say it, and then the rest of us just agree that's what we
Go ahead and
think?
make the record.
Sure.
Just make the record.
Sure,
Why don't you
yeah.
say it? It was your point.
What we are referring to here is there was previous discussion about the city's ability to apply local option sales tax revenue for the purposes of levy accreditation. And sufficient question was brought about that there was some agreement among the council that local option sales tax revenue would not be applied until such time that this was put before the council in terms of a revised ordinance. And that in turn would provide the opportunity for the city to weigh in as to whether or not this is an acceptable change in how the council proposes to utilize that revenue.
I concur.
So that's on the record? All right, Madam Clerk?
Resolution 14-118, authorizing the mayor to execute Iowa Department of Transportation Agreement Number 2015-TS-029 for the Traffic Safety Improvement Program funding.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-119, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Compass Utility LLC for the Lower Bennett Rehab Phase 5 project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 14-120, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with McGinnis Construction for the City Park Maintenance Building Renovation Project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Is that to say that I went out and looked over this facility and found it to be a perfectly good facility that is indeed in need of renovation. And this is one of those things that is well thought out in the city's capital improvement plan, and it's this sort of thing that helps to ensure that by proper routine maintenance of these buildings will have life far beyond what they were normally designed for.
And I'd like to add that there were various bids on this particular project, and there was a spread of 16.5% between the high bid and the lowest bid, a winning bid. So due to the competitive environment, saves the taxpayers a little bit of money.
Other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Applications for permits and cancellations 6A through D.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any citizens that would like to be heard by the council? Anyone from the council?
I'd just like to briefly wish everyone a happy Patriots Day. It's a state celebration in a couple states much farther east than here, but it is really a national celebration. Today is not only the day that the Boston Marathon is run, but it is held to commemorate the fact that today was really the start. Well, today commemorates the start of the American Revolution by the battle at Lexington and Concord. And we have a statue locally, a world-famous sculptor, Daniel Chester French, who sculpted the Ruth Ann Dodge Memorial. Two of his more well-known works would probably be the seated Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., believe it or not. The one, though, that I want to talk about is the Minutemen statue in Concord. And on that statue, there is a base, and it's the first stanza by Emerson. And I think it's important to remember how very important it is to be proud to be an American and all the works that people have done to let us be there. And the one stanza is very short, and if you'll bear with me, I'll try to read it. By the rudimentary bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled. Here once the embattled farmers stood and fired the shot heard round the world. Happy Patriots Day.
Thank you.
How do you top that? Jim Nelson, we are adjourned.
At Council Bluffs Savings Bank, we take pride in our community and volunteering our time to helping individuals, families, and businesses succeed. We are Council Bluffs people operating a Council Bluffs bank to help Council Bluffs be a better place to work and live. Hometown banking, the way it used to be.